Understood. That was all I typed. One word. Clean. Final. Just enough silence wrapped in it to let her know I wasn't going to play this out over email. I closed the laptop and stared at the tense ceiling overhead, listening to the rattle of diesel generators outside and the occasional dull thud of mortars in the distance. Kandahar Airfield, for months into deployment. Dust in the air thick enough to turn the world brown. The email had come through at 3:17. Subject line, let's be adults about this. Just 3 sentences. She'd filed for divorce. She'd cleaned out the joint account. She'd moved her new boyfriend Jeremy into our house in Spokane. I didn't say a word to anyone. Got up, took a cold shower in the communal stall, dressed for morning patrol, and fell into formation like nothing had happened. Later, back at the FOB, Wilson, my bunkmate and a guy I trusted to watch my six, glanced at me as I quietly folded my uniform shirt and placed it on my bunk. You good, man? I nodded once. Just some stuff back home. He didn't ask anything else. Guys like us, we know when to back off. Out here, you deal with the mission. Everything else waits. I wasn't surprised. Not really. Not after the last 6 months. Becky had started working later at the dental office. Took up the gym again, though her body never seemed sore. Her phone was always locked, always silent. New clothes. New expressions. New friends I'd never met. I told myself I was being paranoid. Deployment screws with your head if you let it. But I saw it. I felt it. The thing about being trained to spot patterns, to sense threats before they form, is that you know when the ground starts shifting. You know when a quiet becomes loaded. When someone you love starts talking to you like a polite stranger. So I didn't confront her. Didn't throw accusations. That's not who I am. I just made moves. 3 months before deployment, I opened a separate account at a credit union Becky didn't know about. Had part of my pay rerouted there. Not enough to raise eyebrows. Just enough to not start from zero if the bottom dropped out. I found a storage unit on the other side of town and placed everything important in it. VA loan documents, birth certificate, military awards, my mom's wedding ring, my dad's watch. I put the house deed in there, too, since it was still under my name thanks to the VA mortgage. Becky didn't qualify. She never asked questions. She didn't care where the papers were. The night I deployed, she hugged me at the airport like she was checking a box. Said, "Stay safe, okay?" Her eyes were dry. Didn't kiss me. I should have known then. There's a strange stillness that settles in your chest when something breaks and you don't fall apart. You expect rage or heartbreak or tears, but sometimes you just sit in it. Like watching a bridge collapse from a distance. You don't scream. You just note how quiet it is afterward. That's how I felt reading that email. Not angry. Not heartbroken. Just still. Like something had gone quiet inside me, and I didn't mind. I wasn't going to yell or plead. I'd learned enough about war to know one thing. You don't win by reacting. You win by observing, preparing, and moving with precision. So I waited. I watched. And when the time came, I would act. Back at the bunk, Wilson flicked off his reading light. "If you need anything, just say it," he muttered into the dark. I didn't answer. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, hands behind my head, the desert wind howling outside like it was coming to carry something away. The funny thing was, I didn't feel lost. I felt awake. They say combat sharpens your instincts, makes your reactions faster. That's half true. What it really does is slow everything down. You learn to move through chaos with calm. You learn to read the room before the door opens. That's the state I was in. 3 days after the divorce email, I sat in the mess tent eating powdered eggs while my bank app buzzed with a new notification. Another withdrawal, $8, $200 this time. The balance of our joint account was bleeding out, slow and steady. Death by 1,000 transfers. I put the phone down, finished eating, and went back to work like it didn't matter. But that night, in the corner of the comms tent under the hum of fluorescent lights, I called the credit union from a secure line, verified my identity, reset some passwords, and started freezing whatever I could. Not all of it, but enough to create a trail. "Sir," the woman on the other end said, "these withdrawals, do you recognize them?" "I don't," I said, "but I'm not asking for reversals. Just documentation. Forward all statements to my personal email. Every one." I didn't want her thinking I was some angry husband trying to get revenge. I wanted her to know I was building a record. After the call, I took out the spiral notebook I kept in my rucksack. Started a new page. Operation Ghost. Yeah, I gave it a name. Humor keeps your head straight when everything's sideways. I made lists, short, specific. Reach out to James, Army buddy turned JAG lawyer. Check Virginia home loan terms. Request copy of property deed. Lockdown pension access. Monitor home security system. Becky didn't know I'd upgraded the house cameras before I deployed. I logged in that night using a low bandwidth workaround. No audio, but the feed was clear. There she was, in our kitchen, laughing. Jeremy was there too, wearing my Seahawks sweatshirt. He poured her a drink in the glass I got her on our 10th anniversary. She kissed him like she'd done it 100 times before. I closed the feed. Didn't flinch. Didn't curse. Just wrote one more thing in the notebook. Do not confront. Yet, Wilson noticed I'd started getting quieter than usual. We were close enough that he didn't push, but one night after patrol, he handed me a warm can of Monster and sat beside me on the shipping container we used as a lookout. You thinking revenge or redemption? Neither, I said. I'm thinking about leverage. He didn't ask more, just nodded like a man who understood how long games are played. 2 weeks later, I received a manila envelope via military courier. Inside were the documents James had pulled, property deed, still in my name, power of attorney papers Becky never revoked, and a printout of her refinance application from 3 months ago. She'd forged my signature. The handwriting was close, but not perfect. The middle initial was off. The T in my name curled in a way I never wrote it. But that wasn't the worst of it. She'd listed Jeremy as a co-applicant. I stared at the paper for a long time, tracing the loop of the pen like it might confess to something. James had included a sticky note. If you want to pursue fraud, let me know. This isn't just unethical, it's criminal. I didn't make the call yet. Instead, I booked a week of emergency leave. Didn't tell anyone I was coming stateside. Didn't tell Becky I was breathing the same air as her again. Just checked into a motel on the outskirts of Spokane under a fake name. Slept like a man who'd just landed in enemy territory. The next morning, I drove past our house. The yard was overgrown. The flagpole I'd installed was bare. Her car was in the driveway. So was his. I didn't stop. I wasn't here to beg. I wasn't here to talk. I was here to build the case. At the bank, I met with the loan officer who'd processed the refinance. Can you verify this signature? I asked, sliding over my ID. He paled, took one look at the paper, and swallowed hard. I'll need to report this. Already done, I said. I'm just getting confirmations now. That afternoon, I met James at a diner off the interstate. He was already seated, a file folder waiting. First question, he said, no greeting, no fluff. Do you want war? I want control, I answered. He leaned back. Then here's what we do. The thing about betrayal, it's rarely loud. It doesn't walk in wearing red or announce itself with a siren. It's quiet, soft, like a room slowly filling with smoke. You don't choke right away. You just cough once and keep breathing, telling yourself it's nothing. Then you start to feel it in your eyes, the way everything blurs and burns. That's where I was now. The pieces didn't just fall into place. They started snapping together like they'd been waiting for me to notice. I was back in Spokane, lying low. Checked into a second motel under a different name. Burned the first one after I spotted the same unfamiliar sedan parked 2 days in a row across the street. Becky didn't know I was back. Jeremy didn't either. But they were both nervous. That much was obvious. I'd intercepted an email, thanks to the digital paper trail she forgot to sever, where she asked our bank for clarification on loan co-ownership in the event of unexpected returns. Unexpected returns. Cute phrasing. I took a screenshot, added it to the folder. The list was getting longer. Forged signature on refinance. Jeremy listed as co-applicant. Entire joint account drained. Unexpected return contingency inquiry. The email was time-stamped 4 days after she sent the divorce PDF, which meant she wasn't just trying to end a marriage. She was setting up to erase me. James called one night while I sat in my rental car outside a bar Jeremy had been seen entering. Ran a check on your boy, he said. Name's Jeremy Ryan. 2 DUIs. 1 fraud conviction in 2019. Expunged, but the paper trail's still warm. He's connected to a guy named Daniel Spencer, real estate agent, specializes in distressed properties. Distressed, I said, tasting the word. Yeah, the kind people don't know they're selling until it's already gone. I stared through the windshield, watching Jeremy laugh on the patio under soft string lights. The kind of night that used to be mine. She's trying to sell the house, isn't she? I asked. She is, James confirmed. The offer's already in process. And the buyer's tied to Spencer. I didn't say anything for a long time. When I finally did, my voice was cold. She's not just cheating. No, James said. She's building a new life with your name on the wreckage. The next day, I accessed the security system again. Cameras I installed and linked to a secure off-site cloud she never thought to disable. Jeremy was in my kitchen again, barefoot, making coffee in my pot, pouring into the mug my daughter gave me when she was 8. Becky came downstairs, kissed him on the cheek like she'd done it 100 times. She said something about the appraiser coming by Monday. I didn't need to hear more. She wasn't nervous because I might come back. She was nervous because I might still be watching. And she was right. At night, I'd walk the perimeter of the neighborhood. Nothing suspicious, just a man in a hoodie and cap, staying in the shadows, retracing the sidewalk of a life he used to own. One night, I saw her, Becky, alone, sitting on the front porch, legs curled up, hoodie wrapped tight. No wine glass. No Jeremy. Just her, in the dark. I couldn't see her face clearly, but her posture looked off. Tired. Or maybe hollow. A part of me wanted to step out. Ask her why. Ask when she stopped being mine. But another part of me, the part that's seen what emotional traps can look like, knew better. This wasn't sorrow. This was calculation. Maybe she knew the storm was coming. Maybe she was wondering how much I knew. I crossed the street and disappeared behind the neighbor's fence. Let her sit in the quiet. Let her feel the weight of silence for once. Emails started coming faster now. From Becky. From an unfamiliar address linked to her financial advisor. Probably a new account Jeremy helped set up. She was nervous. That meant pressure was building. I didn't reply. Not once. Instead, I did what I've always done best. I watched. I waited. And quietly, behind the scenes, I pulled one final move. Using credentials she didn't know I had. Ones from my time as a cybersecurity liaison. I traced the sale documents being processed through Spencer's brokerage. Offer accepted. Escrow in progress. Projected close date. 22 days from today. She wasn't just planning to sell the house. She was planning to cash out and disappear. I stood in the motel bathroom that night, staring at myself under the buzzing fluorescence. My skin was thinner than it used to be. Deployment weight. Worry. Betrayal. I'd aged 5 years and 5 months. But there was something in my eyes I hadn't seen in a long time. Focus. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Just cold, quiet purpose. I'd served 4 deployments. Seen 2 friends buried under flags, watched boys with bright eyes come home with nothing left behind them. And now this thing that wore my last name and smiled in my house, thought it could gut me and walk away? Let her try. I'd already lined the walls with tripwires. Let them take one more step. I was eating a stale protein bar on the motel balcony when James called. They filed a title transfer with the county, he said without preamble. She forged your name again. Same handwriting as the refinance. Not even subtle this time. What name's on the buyer? A holding company. Shell account tied to Spencer's office. But the beneficiary is Jeremy. My jaw clenched. I didn't speak. I'm filing for injunction first thing Monday, James continued. But if they finalize before then, I'll stop it before then, I said, voice low. Legally. Of course, I lied. The next 72 hours moved like a tactical op. No wasted motion. No hesitation. I drove out to the VA office, requested all documents tied to the original home loan. Took copies. Proof that the house had been approved under my military benefits, that Becky had never qualified to co-sign, never had her name on the original deed until I added her. Then I pulled up the forged refinance agreement again. Traced the signature line. Same curl on the T. Same missing middle initial. I drove straight to the county recorder's office. Presented my ID, the VA docs, the original deed, and the forged one. The woman behind the glass reviewed the files, eyebrows knitting. This is a serious allegation, she said. It's not an allegation, I replied. It's evidence. She didn't argue. Back at the motel, I logged into our old joint account again. $0. That part wasn't new. But what was new? Multiple flag transactions from the refinance fund. Not to Jeremy this time. To Daniel Spencer. Payments labeled consulting fees and staging services. She wasn't just selling the house. She was paying the middleman out of stolen equity. I checked the timestamp on the latest transaction. 4:09 p.m. 15 minutes earlier. I picked up the burner phone and called the number James had given me. FBI tip line. The guy on the other end took my name and notes. Military deployment. VA loan. Forged documents. Multiple third parties. Real estate fraud. He didn't say much, but I knew it was enough to start the clock. That night, I drove past the house again, parked down the street under the old pine tree where my daughter used to wait for the school bus. Jeremy's truck was there. Becky's car, too. The porch light was on, but the blinds were closed. The fence I built with my own hands looked newly painted. I watched for a long time, and then I noticed something. The flagpole was gone. Not just the flag. The whole damn pole, dug out of the ground like it never belonged there. That was the final straw. Not the money, not the house, not the infidelity or the lies. It was the erasure. She wasn't moving on. She was deleting me. I opened the trunk, took out the manila folder. Inside were the original deed, the forged application, notarization inconsistencies, the timeline of transfers. I walked right up to the front door and knocked. It took a moment. Then Becky opened it. She froze when she saw me. Her face went white. "Nathan." "Hi," I said calmly. "Can we talk?" Jeremy appeared behind her, barefoot, holding a drink. "Same mug. My mug." "Now's not a good time," Becky said, stepping in front of him. "Make time," I said, holding up the folder. Jeremy stepped forward like he was going to say something. "Don't," I warned. Just the one word, and he stopped cold. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one I refinished with my father's tools. Becky didn't speak. Jeremy hovered in the hallway like a shadow with no spine. I opened the folder, laid out each piece. "This is the original VA deed," I said. "This is the forged refinance with Jeremy listed as co-applicant. This is your signature attempt. You even got the middle initial wrong." She looked down, said nothing. "This is the withdrawal history from our joint account. This is the wire transfer to Spencer. And this," I tapped the last page, "is the listing agreement you signed yesterday." "I thought you were in Afghanistan," she whispered. I said. "But I came home early, quietly, just to see what kind of war I was walking back into." Silence. Jeremy finally spoke. "Look, man, this is between you and her." I didn't. "Shut your mouth," I snapped, the first break in my calm. He did. I stood slowly, took in the room. The photos were gone. My coat hooks removed. The living room rearranged. "You didn't just betray me," I said. "You looted my life and sold it for parts." "I didn't mean," Becky started, voice cracking. "You forged federal documents," I cut in. "You're not sorry. You're cornered." She didn't answer. I left the folder on the table. "Those are going to the FBI and the DA. If you cooperate, maybe you'll get leniency. If not, you'll get time." "Nathan, wait." I didn't. Outside, I stood on the lawn for a moment. Looked back at the house I'd fought to keep, even when everything else started slipping. The lights were still on, but something inside felt darker than ever. I pulled out my phone and called James. "It's done," I said. I dropped it all in her lap. "You sure you're ready for what comes next?" he asked. "I'm counting on it," I said. The morning after I dropped the folder at Becky's feet, I drove north into Spokane Valley, parked outside a Starbucks, and met James in the corner by the window. I ordered black coffee. No cream, no sugar. I didn't need comfort. I needed clarity. He slid a flash drive across the table. "Got the rest of what you asked for. Spencer's company records, Jeremy's arrest history, Becky's last 6 months of financial movement. It's worse than you thought." "Hit me." He opened a manila folder, same as the one I'd left on the kitchen table 2 nights ago. "Spencer's real estate license? Suspended last year. He's operating under his cousin's brokerage now, illegally. His company, Horizon Valley Partners, isn't just buying distressed homes. They're flipping VA properties, specifically targeting deployed service members." My jaw tightened. "So this is a pattern." James nodded. "We've confirmed 3 other cases in the last 2 years. All military. All divorced while deployed. In each case, the spouse filed while the service member was overseas, claimed hardship, and sold the house before the divorce finalized." "And Jeremy?" "Ryan's involved in all 3. First as a contractor, then as a boyfriend. Now, well." He leaned back. "You're the first one to fight back with documentation." I stared at the documents. One word sat like a weight in the middle of my chest. Predatory. This wasn't emotional chaos. This wasn't a woman falling out of love. This was structured, measured, predatory. I looked at James. They thought I was just another tired soldier too far away to notice. He didn't argue. That night, I reviewed the security footage again. Same angle. Same kitchen. Same pair of people pretending to live a life they didn't earn. But something had changed. They weren't smiling. Becky was pacing. Jeremy was drinking, arguing, pointing toward the stack of documents I'd left. I paused the feed, zoomed in. Jeremy's hand on the folder. His lips forming words I couldn't hear. He's going to ruin us. I hit save and backed it to 3 separate encrypted drives. One went into the lockbox I'd stashed in my brother's garage. One to James. One to the FBI field office in Spokane, along with the rest of the compiled evidence, forged documents, transfer records, surveillance footage, and a 3-page timeline with dates and flags tied to every fraudulent act. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a witness. 3 days later, I got the call. Mr. Briggs, this is Agent Patel with the FBI. I'd like to set a time to talk. In person. We met at a federal office in a dull beige building downtown. She looked young, but sharp. Notepad already filled when I walked in. I want to be clear, she said. This isn't just about a domestic dispute or real estate fraud. This, she tapped the file, is a criminal conspiracy that may involve interstate wire fraud, forgery, and coordinated financial abuse of veterans. I gave her everything. Told her about the forged signature, the refinance, the shell company, the cameras, the lies. She listened without interruption, only spoke when she needed dates or clarification. At the end, she closed the file and said, "We're moving forward. Quietly for now. But you should prepare for this to become public." "I'm not hiding," I said. "Not anymore." She nodded once. "That's good, because I have a feeling this story's going to get a lot louder before it's over." By the end of the week, subpoenas had gone out. Spencer was served first, then Jeremy, then a sealed one sent to Becky's workplace, discreetly, but not quietly. Word would get around. James called me the next night. "Becky's lawyer contacted mine," he said. "Suddenly, she wants to negotiate." Of course she does. She's scared. She should be. But the truth is, I wasn't angry anymore. Something colder had taken its place. A kind of precision, like the feel of a loaded magazine sliding home before patrol. This wasn't about heartbreak now. This was about justice. For me. And for every other guy they'd done this to. I stood in front of the mirror that night, shirtless, scars still fresh from the surgery. I traced the incision with 2 fingers, then looked myself in the eye. "You're not dead," I said aloud. "You're just getting started." The man looking back didn't blink. You spend enough time in the field and you learn. Precision beats power. One clean shot in the right place can do what months of screaming never could. That's where I was now. Not grieving. Not second-guessing. Just waiting. Waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger. I got the call from Agent Patel on a Thursday morning. "They've made contact," she said. "Jeremy's lawyer wants a deal. Spencer too. But we're not offering anything yet. We want Becky first." I said nothing. Just waited. "She's in the deepest," Patel continued. "Forgery. Mortgage fraud. Wire transfers from federally protected loan accounts. She's not just guilty. She's primary." "Then don't offer her anything," I said. "Make her sit in it." Patel paused. "I thought you might say that." The next day, Becky's lawyer filed a motion to pause divorce proceedings due to emotional distress. Translation: panic. James met me at the courthouse steps, holding a folder thick with deposition requests. "She's scrambling," he said, "trying to claim you manipulated her into the refinance. That she didn't know what she was signing. She's going to say I planned all this." I asked. "She's going to say you lied. That you set her up." I almost laughed. "Then it's time we go public." That night, I drove to a local news station. Not with anger. With evidence. I didn't give them everything. Just enough. A redacted version of the fraud timeline. Documentation on Spencer's false real estate license. Jeremy's past fraud conviction, and my own deployment record. Off the record, I'm telling you, this isn't just my story, I said. There are other veterans out there who've had their lives gutted while they were overseas. And it's happening in broad daylight. The reporter, a Navy vet herself, didn't need convincing. She just asked, "When can we run it?" "Monday morning." She nodded. "Then we'll have the cameras ready Sunday." I wasn't naive. I knew it would explode. I knew Becky's name would be in the papers. Jeremy's face would be on the evening news. Spencer's office would have reporters at the door. But they'd earned that. They'd built their house on the bones of people who served. Thought no one would notice. That no one would fight. They picked the wrong guy. Sunday afternoon, I stood in front of my old house with the camera crew. My lawyer on one side, Agent Patel just off frame with quiet permission from her supervisors. I told my story clean, calm, and direct. The reporter asked, "What do you want people to take away from this?" I looked straight into the lens. That a man can go to war for his country, come home with nothing, and still not be broken. That we're not all blind. That we watch. We wait. And when we move, we don't miss. The story aired Monday morning at 6 a.m. By 7:45, Spencer was arrested at his office for operating without a license and for real estate fraud tied to multiple cases. By 8:20, Jeremy was picked up outside a gym wearing my old sweatshirt and trying to act surprised. At 9 o'clock sharp, I got a call from Patel. "We have enough," she said. "Becky's going to be served today. Criminal. State level. Wire fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Federal charges pending." I let out a slow breath. Not joy. Not relief. Just confirmation. Becky didn't go quietly. She tried to stall. Claimed emotional manipulation. Claimed PTSD on my end. Claimed Jeremy coerced her. None of it stuck. Because by then, I'd already released one more detail to the media. A letter she'd written Jeremy 2 months into my deployment. "Once the papers are filed and we get the equity out, we can disappear. He's never around anyway. He won't fight. He never does." I posted the quote online. I didn't need to say anything else. That night, I sat in my brother's backyard with a beer in hand and the stars overhead. No headlines. No texts. No more waiting. I wasn't interested in watching what happened next. I'd pulled the pin. Let the blast do its work. The next morning, James called with one final update. "She's agreed to everything," he said. "Full restitution. Surrendering all rights to the house. Dropping her half of the pension. Signed confession in exchange for leniency. She get it. Probation. No jail time unless she violates it. But she's done. Blacklisted from credit, real estate, even healthcare administration." I nodded. "Good. You want to press charges beyond that?" I thought about it. The money? I could recover it. The house? Already mine. But the look on her face when I walked through that door with the evidence in my hands? That was payment enough. 3 weeks after the story aired, I sat alone in the back row of the courtroom. Didn't wear my uniform. Didn't speak. Becky sat across from me, flanked by her attorney. She looked smaller than I remembered. Hair pulled back. Hands trembling. The judge read off the charges. Wire fraud, document forgery, attempted property theft. Felony counts, all of them. Becky didn't look at me once. She pled guilty. Took the deal. 5 years probation. Restitution paid in full. Loss of license in any field tied to finance or legal contracts. A confession signed and submitted into public record. No apology. No excuses. Just legal paperwork and a woman who'd spent every ounce of her dignity trying to erase the man she thought wouldn't fight back. Jeremy took a plea deal too. Fraud, conspiracy. 18 months. Spencer got 5 years, no parole. They were the fall guys. She was the architect, and I was the ghost they didn't see coming. After the hearing, Becky tried to speak to me in the hallway. "Nathan, please." I kept walking. Didn't slow down. Didn't look back. Some things don't need closure. They just need to end. That night, Agent Patel called. "We found 3 more victims," she said. "All military. Your case gave them the courage to come forward." I thanked her quietly, hung up, and exhaled. Not happiness. Not even pride. Just peace. The kind that comes after fire has done its job. The house was quiet. No more cameras. No more shadows in the hallway. Just me, a fresh coat of paint on the bedroom walls, and the sound of my own boots echoing through a space that finally felt like mine again. I stood on the back deck with a cup of coffee and watched the sun climb over the pines. It had been a long damn time since I watched anything without scanning for danger. The flagpole was back. I'd reinstalled it the week after Becky's sentencing. Drove it in by hand. New concrete. New brass eagle at the top. It wasn't about patriotism. It was about memory. It was about saying, "You didn't get everything." James called. Said the other servicemen we helped had won their settlements. That the feds might be opening a broader case. Asked if I'd testify. Yeah, I said. If it helps someone else keep what's theirs, I'm in. I didn't hear from Becky again. Not on her birthday. Not on mine. Not even when the restitution check cleared. Good. Some things belong in the rear view. I still wake up early. Habit from the army. Habit from pain. But now, I make real breakfast. Eggs, toast, not a protein bar in sight. I sit at the table alone, but I sit straight. I eat slow. I let the quiet happen. And sometimes, late at night, I catch myself smiling for no reason. Not because things are perfect, but because I didn't let them in me. I'm still here. And this time, I'm not going anywhere.